Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be. We are live here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Saturday we go live, and we are also live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and of course, StreamYard. We are delighted that you have made time to be with us today. And like I said, we are live and we broadcast to over 100 different countries around the world. And so that's why we are very inclusive in saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Today, we're delighted to have someone all the way in Kenya who is joining us to talk about a very, very important subject. We want to um, get to know some information that should help us to understand what's going on and what are some of the things that are happening to support our brothers and sisters who serve as police officers in the Republic of Kenya, Jamhuri ya Kenya. And we're just delighted that we have this opportunity. And we do have one of the police chaplains who will be joining us momentarily. And we're glad that he is here on standby. And we certainly want to make sure that if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to send them to us and we will incorporate them for sure so that we can have a great conversation. And of course, you're here live on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, a very, very unique radio platform that enables us to have different programs, including Today's Africa. So this is your host, Dr. FM. We're delighted you have joined us. And of course, we are delighted to have our host, uh, Reverend Vicent Shikoli.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Karibu, karibu, as we say in Kiswahili. Welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here. Could you take a moment to introduce us to yourself, or introduce yourself to us, rather?
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Reverend Vicent Shikoli, a chaplain of police. I'm in Kenya, serving as one of the chaplains. I'm an ordained pastor and married with 3 children. I'm mature, I'm old of age. I'm 63 years. I thank God for our host just to introduce me to this meeting of chaplaincy. I wish to say thank you so much, and may the Lord continue to bless you. And I'm feeling happy to be part and parcel of you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you
Thank you
so much.
very much, Reverend Shikoli. We're delighted that you have joined us today. And obviously, we are hoping to understand a lot more in terms of what you do, what is happening as far as the role and the value of chaplains is concerned. This is quite a big responsibility when we think of people who serve as police officers. We have tremendous respect for them. We know that policing is quite a calling. Just as you, Reverend, you have a calling from God to be a pastor, we also understand that this is a calling to become a police officer, and it comes with so many challenges. And we are hoping today that you will be able to help us to understand what is going on, what do chaplains do, and some of the challenges so that we in the global village get to know and support one another. And of course, we do have other police um, officers, police organizations that would take an interest in what you're doing so that they can also learn from you. So, Reverend Shikoli, you have been a chaplain with the Kenya Police Service for how long, and how did you end up as a chaplain? If we would start there, just fill us in. How did that happen? Not everybody who is a pastor is a chaplain, but how did you become a chaplain, and how long have you been serving with them?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a good question. I remember I've served for 5 good years as a chaplain of police. And how I entered into it, I found a police officer who was a chaplain, introduced to me the chaplaincy. And I had a calling. I just felt, because one of the first thing I realized, we were scared about the police, because I am not a police officer in uniform. I am a chaplain. My work is to serve the police. One of the things that I do is to have a high spiritual, moral, and standard, because what the police desire to us, they want to hear about our spiritual and moral standards in our lives, so that they can also desire to walk like us. So the first thing that I realized, when the chaplain of the police, who is a police officer, introduced to me, and it was my calling so much that our relationship with the police, it was so apart, that when we would see a police officer, would want to be feel as if they are our enemies. But at the end of it, I discovered they are our sons, our daughters, and they need to be spoken to as sons and daughters. And therefore, I found myself getting into it so much, and becoming a chaplaincy. In fact, I got interested to go and get knowledge about chaplaincy. So I went to school, have a certificate. I'm working on my degree on chaplaincy. And so that is where I came in. First, I said I needed to have a high spiritual standard, morals, so that when you speak to them, they know who you are. And that is how I came in, and that is how I began to understand. Another thing that also motivated me is must demonstrate commitment. It is not an easy job. It needs a commitment, serving the police, not only police alone, with their families. And that is
Mm.
why not only even families, and also reportees, those who have been, or we call them here in Kenya, we call them romandis or reportees, and also the community at large, because that was my responsibility. One, in the service of the police by themselves. Two, their families. Three, the reportees, and as well as the community as a whole. And so in this,
This is very, very important information you've just shared with us, and you've touched on some things I'd love to follow up on so that we are clearer on some of these. Now, you mentioned. Now, I understand that Kenya is one of those very, very early African countries to attain independence. And for me to hear you talk about earlier on, you felt that you needed to run away and stay away from the police, but then you are bringing in this aspect that says, these are our sons and daughters, these are our brothers and sisters who are serving. So, what made you as a community, I know we will get into the other aspects, but what made you as an individual and representing the people of Kenya? I'm doing this generally, I'm generalizing here. What would have made you want to run away from them, stay away from them? What is it?
yeah, when we were born, we were just, when we would see a police officer, we thought they act in their actions and their behavioral way of how they do things. They would always scare us, and so people got scared. And in general, in African culture and understanding, we were told the police have been given the blood of a lion, so that they drink the blood of lion so that we get scared. So in the process, we will see a police and we get scared, and the way they would handle issues and how they would come to you either in arresting. So it got some of us into a way of getting scared. But all in all, that is why I realize they are our sons, are our daughters, our brothers and sisters. They need us, we need them. So I had to build a relationship from there.
That is profound. You're talking about relationships, and I think it's really within this context of relationships that now you as a chaplain, you would then want to be part of what is happening. You you are actually bringing some very interesting and fascinating information, which at some point we have to bring you back so that we can talk about this. So today is really the first time we have you as a guest, but we have to bring you in so that we can talk about this, because it seems to me that there's a cultural change. There was a way in which growing up things were done in a certain way, and perhaps one of the things that I'm actually imagining is the relationship between the police and the community could have been different, so that young children growing up, they would look at the police differently. But I know this is not really why you are here. You are here to talk about the role and the value of police chaplains. Now,
Good.
um, we also try as much as possible to make sure that we're not getting into the politics of any country, the politics of any environment. We are apolitical by choice. We do that because we do respect the fact that there are different political views out there, but we need to do our best to be objective and focus on things that help us in our differences, in our different political understandings and spheres, to still do the things that we should do in order to build each other up. And I think you mentioned that you want to come alongside police and other staff so that you can support and encourage them. Now, you are in just outside of Nairobi or in the Nairobi area? Right. So
Out.
how many chaplains would be in your region, and are the police designed in such a way that in that area you have X number of police officers working with X number of chaplains? Could you just fill us in on how that is structured?
Yeah, thank you. Before I got into, as I said, there is a police officer who is a chaplain that introduced us to the chaplaincy, and as pastors from the community. And by the way, I am not an officer as such. I am a chaplain of the police. And in the process, how we got into this, we had some stations of police and small posts where they sent police officers. So in the area where I am is called Takoreti sub-county. In a station, probably depending on the number of the population of the area, the number of the police will always be on the higher side. I am living in the slums of Nairobi, away from the Nairobi city. And so it costs us now, because where there are slums, there are a lot of challenges. So the number of the police will always be on higher side. And that is where you find a lot of criminals. Crime is on higher side. Therefore, the number of the police in every station, it is on a higher side. I could not give exactly the right number in every police station, but I could estimate according to where we are. It is around 45 per station. But because of the challenges here and there, the number some cause either they lower or step down by slowly. But that is the number that I would look at.
Okay, very good, and thank you for sharing those details with us, Reverend Shikoli. For those of you who just joined us, this is today's Africa. We're talking about the value and the role of police chaplains in Kenya. The Kenya police, they call themselves the Kenya Police Service, which is a very, very important way to label yourself. It's a police service, not a police force. And so service should then be at the top. Customer service, how officers relate to people and all that, that should be part of what should be happening. However, we do understand that the um, the you made reference to the area where you are, and so how many chaplains would then be in the Dagoretti County?
Yeah, so what we did as in chaplaincy, we got around 50 pastors decided to go to school to learn on chaplaincy. So after learning, we had to subdivide ourselves in every police station so that we can manage up on how we can reach to each one of them. When we get into them, our desire is to make sure all of them, at least, they get to understand who we are and the purpose that we are reaching to them. And that is why we had to make sure we divide ourselves into Takoreti sub-county. So
Okay.
the number should be around 50.
Okay. That is very, very important to know because you're talking about a group of pastors who have now been trained as chaplains who then are subdivided into these various stations in the region. Now, when chaplains connect with the police officers and police personnel at these stations, could you let us know, um, how do you come alongside them? What are the key duties, responsibilities, or expectations of these chaplains when they go? I take it that most of us as Africans, we are people of faith. We believe that God has given us life and that we
Mhm.
have a responsibility to relate to Him and to relate to others as well. But there could be other expressions of faith. You know, in Kenya, I would imagine that you have uh, Muslims, you have people of different faiths as well. So how do these pastors relate to this diverse group of police officers and police personnel? What are your responsibilities? What is expected of you?
Thanks. One, as I said from the beginning, we must maintain what we call spiritual moral standards, because that will give, whether you are a Muslim or you are a Christian or another different faith, the first thing that people need to understand is the spiritual moral standards in our life, so that you become as an example to them. And in the process of this, they will desire. For example, let me say, we speaking to a Muslim. How do I relate with them? Do I introduce the Christianity? Do I introduce whatever they are doing? First, what I need them to know is about my life. If my life is well, I stand before, and even the Muslim or other different faiths would desire. And that is how, before they begin to look on your faith, they see you. When we approach them, assuming they are coming, because in the police uh, uh, service, we have the both Muslims, we have those who do not believe in God, we have all types of people that are there. But they need to understand who are we. So we don't portray our Christianity to them. We don't bring our Christianity. What we do with them, we bring our life. We relate with them. We build a relationship, so that in the relationship they will begin to discern what kind of a person are you. Then as they begin to know us, because after the relationship you have known each other, then at the end of it somebody will begin to understand who you are.
Very well put together. Thank you for that information, Reverend Shikoli. I think this focus on relationship is something that is really non-negotiable because you and I know that if you are going to influence or impact a life and there is no relationship, it doesn't go very, very far. But when there is closeness, a healthy relationship, it makes it much, much easier to relate to one another and then build on that. Now, um, you are talking about having high spiritual standards so that you are seen as a human being who is able to relate to others in ways that they can emulate your life and appreciate who you are. And obviously, that brings tremendous nuances of trust. Now, what would you see or say about what are the challenges that these police officers would have that you would want to come alongside to assist them? What would be some of the challenges that they would be facing?
Yes. Part of the challenges that we have encountered, and one of the things that when we are available for their proving and debriefing of their disaster before and after the events, there are those times of disaster, and there are those times of some events happening. So our presence with them gets a solution and brings us closer to them. Another thing that we see must be understand, accept, relate to person holding different religions. Number 5, have learned classes of Christian counseling. So one of the things that we do is we do counseling and psychological counseling, pastoral counseling regarding personal and moral problems that work related to issues. Another thing that we do is we must have understood about stressor while on duty, long working hours, environmental challenges, hostility periods. So one of the things that we look at is that so the chaplain must know, one, have learned about stress management, conflict management, post marital counseling, family counseling, conduct services, funeral and pronouncements, and loss and grief when one loses his beloved one. So we need to have learned all those things so that we understand the challenge of each one of them, so that as we minister to them, there are those what we call have to understand about trauma healing. And then we also must have satisfied done about mediation. Then also do what we call police and community, uh, bringing them together. So those are part of the things that as a roles of what we are doing as a police chaplaincy in this area.
Wow, this is very, very encouraging to hear some of the things that the police chaplains in Kenya are doing as they relate to the Kenya Police Service. It's really encouraging to hear the various areas that you have just highlighted in terms of a chaplain should have knowledge of these so that they can relate to people at that level and be seen not just as a professional, but as a real person who has an interest in the well being of these police officers. So this is very, very encouraging. Uh, um, those of you who just joined us, thank you for being with us today. We are live on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio with your host, Dr. FM. And we're delighted that we have Reverend Vicent Shikoli, who is one of the chaplains with Kenya Police Service. and he's just outside of Nairobi, or just within the greater part of Nairobi, Dagoretti sub county, or that region there. And it is encouraging to know that there are people who have taken an interest in coming alongside police. Now, when you talk about chaplains, we also know that you have male and female police officers. Now, how much of a diversity is the the chaplains as a team? Would you enlighten us on the demographics, the dynamics of that?
Did I maybe repeat the question a bit?
Yeah. So the question is, um, the Kenya Police Service has male and female officers.
Yes.
Now, is the chaplain's team reflecting the same male and female? How would you help us to understand the dynamics there?
Oh, yes, yes. When we had to have a chaplaincy team, first we looked on the issue of gender, because the police, they also have the police, the part of the female and the male part of it. So our area was also to see that we also train up the female and also the male part of us. So we have these ones. And so when we are going for, say, we want to speak to the police, what we do is we work together. We have a chaplain who is a female, and we have also a chaplain who is a male. So when we go, we don't just go one unless there is a demand for a certain area that needs only one side of the part. Like, for example, if a female is needed, then that will be understood. But if it is going to speak to them, we work together with the female part of the chaplaincy.
Excellent. That is very, very encouraging to hear that there is representation there. Um, Now, if there is something else that uh, should qualify a chaplain, in addition to have high spiritual standards or morals, what do you think would be one of the most important, maybe one or two or three things that come to mind in terms of skills that a chaplain should have in order to relate to people who are police officers? I know you talked about counseling, having, counseling skills, and you mentioned quite a number of things. Now, I don't know, we don't know if there is like expectations in terms of, yes, you go to school to learn as a chaplain, but in terms of your own people skills, because let's face it, Reverend Shikoli, there are some people who are very skilled but not easy to get along with.
Mm.
There are, just like we have some police officers who are really good, they know their work very, very well, but they're not easy to work with. So, as chaplains, yes, you went to school. And by the way, not everybody who goes to seminary becomes a pastor. There are some people who should go to seminary, but they should go and work somewhere else. So, because you went to a chaplaincy training, what other people's skills would you say are needed to make sure that you become an effective chaplain for the Kenya Police Service?
Yeah, one is that, as I said, it is a calling.
Yes.
You must know that you are called, because without that calling, it is not easy. Like, for example, as you said, there are police that know they understand themselves. They know the service and they know what they need to do. The moment we approach unto them, we always encourage them, either in relationship, because if you know what you are doing, you also need to know how to relate with other people. Because the moment, uh, assuming an issue arises that will make you want to be close to somebody, it will be good for you, no matter how much you are skilled up in what you know. You will need the person to be close to you. So the skills that we also have, what we did as chaplaincy, apart from going to college, one of the things that we did is we had to form out some a group like we call community policing. So we work out in a community policing. When we come up into the community policing, they learn. They hear that we have this thing that is going on, they want to join. We also prepare some time of breakfast to invite them. They just come and have a cup of tea together with us, so that in the process, they're also feeling the fellowship with us. And so it makes us now, when we are in that way, we are building, no matter how much you know your work, but you need to have somebody that is close to you. So those are part of the ways that we also do. And we also come up to unite by ourselves. And like in this community, we decided the chaplaincy, the chaplains that we went for the training and so on, and we are around 50. We decided to say we can do a joint up welfare that will work together in the welfare, even with the police. And so our target is to find out, because there are challenges the police goes through with the limit of their salary. They sometimes you find they are challenging. So in the process of this, we decided to say the little they have, we can join with the little that we can either also have. We try to come up with a way we can have an investment together. So those are part of the ways that we are coming up with now building, whether we buy something like a small plot, and then in that plot we build up a structured house that can accommodate either the police officer, a two-bedroomed house. And those are part of the things that we are looking at, because we want also to bring up into the level with the little that they have, and even with the little for us as pastors we can have. If we can come up with something of an investment, it will become a blessing to all of us.
Hmm. Okay. This is very, very helpful information you're sharing, sir. And it is very, very encouraging. I mean, when you think of the population of Kenya, I mean, it's a big, big country. I mean, I'm aware that it's well over 55
Million, over
million
50 million.
million people.
Yeah,
And then when you think of the number of police, I was checking some of the information. It says up to 100,000 police officers and military personnel. And I'm saying to myself, that's a lot. That's a lot of people with probably not as many officers as possible, because when we think of some of the challenges happening globally in all the world class cities, and Nairobi being one of them, and then you have Dagoretti and Kisumu and Mombasa and all these other countries, I mean all these other cities, we realize that there is a big need for people to come alongside each other. And going back to what you said earlier in terms of changing the dynamics from fear to relationships, would you help us to understand some of the things that are happening now in the communities to help the community understand the police? Because I think you said we need each other. So the police need the community and the community need the police. So what would be some of the things that are happening to facilitate the knowing of each other so that people can work together?
Yeah, the part of the things that we look at, when you build a relationship, the secrets, or we will say the criminal part of it, because our intention is to find on how the relationship can be built. And so how do we do? Because these people are working, and their work is to make sure the crime is reduced. That is their major work. And in relation, let me give it as a general, as a pastor, on a pastoral point. I look on it like in the book of John 10:10. The work of the police is more of about John 10:10. The Bible says that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That is more of the work of the police. And in the community, you can't fail to get those people. They are in community. But now, in extent to the scripture of John 10:10, it says, but Jesus has come that we have life and have it in abundance. So when we speak to the police, our aim is to reduce their work when we are together, because their work is to find a thief, to find those people who are killing and those who are destroying. But when we join together, we begin to make their work easy. Our aim is to bring the Christ part in their lives, where he says, he has come that we have life in abundance. So we tell them, we know your work is not easy in the community. But as we come, we are coming to be lightened to your work by bringing Christ in between.
Mm.
And the work of Christ is to give us life in abundance, not to kill. And so in the process, you find they have that desire to know much on what we are doing. So the question was, sorry, can I remember the question? Your question was?
I was trying to understand, or we are interested in finding out what are some of the things happening between the police and the community so that the relationships are better. How
Mm,
how is how are the chaplains facilitating the building of that relationship? Because earlier, you remember you had said that growing up, you had a different perception of the police. And now, as a chaplain, you're looking at this differently. So, what are some
mm.
of the things then the chaplains are doing to make sure that there's a better and healthier relationship between the police and the community?
So what the chaplains we are doing, one, we are bringing to remind the community that these are our sons, these are our daughters, they are our brothers and sisters. The community now begins to understand, if we are in the community, we are not the police officers ourselves, but we have a relationship with them. They begin to see us and with the police and themselves realizing that they are one. So we reduce the crime. How do we reduce? And I said the work of the police is to find that thief, to find that person who kills, and to find that person who destroys. That is the work of the police, mostly. But if we will come in and bring to them the relationship with the community, their work is reduced because the relationship is built and the crime is reduced. And then they work in an environment that is conducive, acceptable. So that those are part of what we are doing. And as we build up into that, we are telling the community that our relationship is important with the police. And we have seen it, by the way. I have seen it since I joined. I have seen the area that we are in, the crime has reduced so much. And let me give this point that in Takoradi sub-county, we are the pioneers of the chaplaincy team that united, we work together with the police and even the senior police now beginning to want us to go to different areas just to do what? To share out. And we also go to different areas from now, Takoradi, because when we became the pioneers, the doors were open to other areas. We go to areas like recently we went to a place called Kirinyaka that is now in the central part of Kenya, just to share what we are doing and how we are bringing the police together and with the community. And so we build up that way, and that's what we are doing mostly.
The information you're sharing with us is very, very important. And you certainly are helping us to understand the value and the role of a police chaplain in Kenya. And for us to hear about the efforts to really help the police to do their work, which ultimately re- um, results in crime reduction. And you're talking about helping the community to understand that we are one, that the police and the community are one. We need each other. That these are our brothers and sisters. These are our sons and daughters. We need to work together. Now, from the police perspective, what could be some of the challenges that you face? Probably not challenges as such. Maybe I should use a different word. What could be done differently for the police to show their support to you as chaplains so that you are able to carry out the work that you believe God has called you to do? Are there some things that the police can do to help you? For example, if you went to the inspector general, if you went to the, uh, those that run the Kenya Police Service, and you said, here are some things that we need so that we can carry out our responsibilities and tasks as chaplains. Here are 3 or 5 things. What could those 3 to 5 things be for you?
Thanks so much. That's a good one. One, for example, for us ourselves, first, we don't just go, we needed to do an identification. So we came up with a badge. You can see it,
Yes.
so that we identify to them who we are. And the question is, what will it make the police? So we looked at it because the challenge we are having, one is distance. Mobility for us is always a problem. Another thing that we also look at, we also find ourselves, we have a family, and the work we are doing, for us to also to grow up, we also need to be supported in a way. I said about mobility.
Mhm.
Another thing is about if we could to come up and say, uh, if something that can be produced to support us, especially that we're working to bring up the police in the unity of the community as well as the police. So we also would love to be supported in a way. Another thing that we do, we also look, as I said about patch, they can come up with their own way of how they will look at us and say, will you like to be this way? Because we are also trying to say this thing. It is still new. As I said, we began it in Takoreti. We began in Takoreti, so they are also still catching up to understand where are these people or these chaplains coming from, so that they can also call us. And we are so blessed to thank God, because even the senior police in Nairobi region came, had just begun when we were beginning our chaplains in Takoreti and what the work we are doing. He recognized now is a senior person. We prayed for him. The Lord opened the door and he got promotion. So every time he calls us to find out how are we doing. Sometimes they can come up and say, we will want also to get some offering. They give us a bit of offering from their own, but we don't want that one to work. We want to work as uh, chaplains recognized by the government of Kenya.
Mm, mm. That is profound. And thank you for sharing that. We are really hoping that with the kind of work that you are sharing with us, we would like to, is today's Africa, we want to find ways to support and encourage various police services across Africa. And so you are helping us to understand some of the dynamics between the police and the community, and between the chaplains and the police, and the chaplains and the community. So you, as chaplains, become that glue to bring everybody together. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you are saying that things can be better. There is room for improvement in terms of the relationships between the chaplains and the Kenya Police Service as well. So that is very, very encouraging to hear. And this is very, very useful information. And we are hoping that even through these conversations, your relationship with the community and the police will continue to increase as well, so that you become more and more effective in terms of the kinds of things that you are doing. Now, I know that our time is slipping away here. The hour is almost gone. And like I said, we will definitely bring you in, because from this first conversation, you mentioned some things that are really worth looking into. And it is our hope and desire that what is happening in Kenya is also happening across Africa, in the various African countries. And if there's something that stood out for me in terms of how this relationship can be better, I know that most of our police services, they struggle having healthy financial budgets to be able to look after themselves, including personnel. But from what I'm hearing, you're saying it may not be financial, but some kind of support from the police as an organization that would signal a relationship with the chaplains, because chaplains have families, chaplains have their own responsibilities. Yes, you are like full-time, part-time, because it's like ministry, right? You cannot be part-time ministry. You are full-time. You simply put in X number of hours. It's always full-time. So being a chaplain is really a full-time responsibility, because if you saw something on the street as a leader, as a chaplain, I don't think you say, well, you know what, I'm not working today, so I can't really do that. Or if somebody approaches you, you can't say, well, no, I can't talk to you today because I'm not assigned to be working. No, this is a full-time commitment, and you talked about a calling. However, I really, we really hope that the relationship will become much, much better over time. And of course, it's good to see that your team is becoming an example to other chaplains in in the nation. And we certainly want to see that increase as well. So this value and excuse me, this value and the role of the police chaplains is something that you have helped us to understand in terms of some of the things that you're doing. You talked about conflicts, participating in resolving conflicts. You talk about marital um, issues, families. It's not just the police officers, but it's also their families. You talked about uh, grief and losses. You talked about trauma, how police officers see things that traumatize them, and there's no one to talk to. Sometimes they cannot go home and talk about those things to their own families, but you as chaplains are right there to assist. You talked about mediation. You talked about um, you know um community policing, how you are engaged in the community to make sure that people understand who you are. There are so many aspects of what you're doing. And I'm just saying, let's hope that these are not secrets, but these are things that the community gets to know about. Now, I am wondering, what is it that the police is doing to increase the visibility of chaplains? People know you are in the community, but what is the police doing to increase your visibility in the community, so that not just the police officers get to know all these areas you're involved in, but also the community gets to know this, so that there's celebration. So I don't know if there's like some kind of a police appreciation service, a police appreciation celebrations, where you bring the
Yeah,
police in the community to say, this is what we're doing. We are on the same team. Let's work together.
yeah. I also want to say, because when the police realized that we are in the community and we are bringing a relationship together, in most of their meetings, they always either call us, like if they have any celebration, they give us a chance so that we can either do something, we can speak, we can be understood. So, meaning they're also making us to be known to the people or the community, that these people, the chaplaincy, they are part and parcel of us. We are working together with them, and so we really feel even appreciated when we pass around. The community will always recognize us, that these men, they are doing good work in the community. So
Oh,
through the
that
police
is
by
very
themselves.
that is very, very encouraging to actually see that the police is being intentional in terms of highlighting some of the things that you're doing. We just heard from Abraham, who is in New York City, and he says good insight. And we have Nancy all the way from Accra in Ghana. We said I'm a first-time viewer, and we also have Ishmael, who is in Nairobi, Kenya. Kule Nairobi, Kenya. He says, thank you, Love Bay, for this topic. So we do have a number of people who really appreciate the work that you're doing. And looking at our time, I realize that time has slipped away. And like I said, we will definitely have you back. And hopefully, maybe next time we can bring in another chaplain so that we can have the two of you having this conversation and you can enlighten us as well. Because unfortunately, most of the time, we look at things when they're not done right and we talk about them. But when things are done right, you know, sometimes we don't say anything. So I just want to say thank you very much for the work that you're doing with our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters who are part of the Kenya Police Service. And we appreciate the work that you are doing. And please, please, please keep it up. And who knows what will happen from these conversations as we share ideas. Like today, the value and the role of police chaplains in Kenya. You are doing an amazing work, and we commend you for that. Keep up the good work. Mungu akubariki sana. God bless you, and we
Amen.
certainly look forward to having these conversations with you as we like I said, you mentioned a number of things that I would like us to follow up on. And maybe one of these days, it'll be wonderful to even have um, someone from the Kenya Police Service as well
Yes,
as part of our conversations so that we can
yes.
highlight some of these things and help each other. Now, seeing that our time is slipping away here, are there some things that come to mind in terms of, listen, I talked about a number of things, but here are some things that I'd like to leave with you today. What are some of those? Things you would like to leave with us today as we bring this program to a close.
One of the things that I would want you as a team continue to pray for us. I know it is not an easy work, but through prayer, I know everything is possible. Another thing I would also want you to do is to remember us, especially as I said about mobility. We are struggling to reach to the destinations that we are supposed to go. For example, from a police station to another police station is a challenge for us, very challenging. We struggle even to go to that place to another place. So our prayer would be mobility would be very important for us. If you can look on a way on how we can stand together, and that will be a prayer for us answered. It has been a prayer for us. We don't know what we will say, but God, we have been trusting God that if we can get mobility, that will be an answered prayer for us. Another thing that we also pray, we pray that you keep us in oneness. As I said, there are those things that you know, the pastors we are talking, they are coming from the slums of Nairobi. And these are people, when you look at them, you see on their churches, you just feel mercy. And I pray that one of these days, God, when God opens a door, you just come and pay a visit on where we are coming from. I'll be very happy so that you can understand the difficulties we are going through. Two, in this process we are losing, even for us to get up into what For example, a nice phone, something that can catch up with what we are doing. It is a struggle, but I'm happy that this is a moment. As I said, let it be a prayer request that as we work out, your support will be very important for us also.
Mm. Thank you very much, Reverend Shikoli, for mentioning these things to us. Talking about prayer support, talking about the need for mobility, internet access, being able to have um, things that will help you to carry out your work in this day and age. You know,
Yes.
it makes it a lot easier when you're able to have somebody's phone number. You can call them or they can call you and you can have conversations as well. And then you talked about umoja, unity, coming together and working together as a team. Um, we really appreciate the work that you and your colleagues are doing. We know that there are so many challenges around the world, and to have people like yourselves who feel called and dedicated and committed to coming alongside the police officers in this way, it's something that is really, really needed. And again, we are very, very grateful for that. I think it's important that I end on this note. I was really touched not long ago when a friend of mine from Kenya sent me a note and said that one of the senior police officers um, had actually committed suicide. They actually killed themselves, and that really touched my heart. And I can imagine it's so easy for us to have these programs and just think that we're just creating programs for people to know information, but we're talking about uh, people who connect with real people who are struggling with real issues and coming alongside them to comfort them, to be, as some people say, to be Jesus with skin on, to be right there with them and help them to understand grief and losses and all these challenges, because life is so real. Is sometimes things can be tough, and what the chaplains do never hit the headlines. I mean, it's not one of those things, the chaplains did this and it's heralded in the Kenya Gazette and the Kenya Times and all that. No, these are things that happen behind the scenes. And so we thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm hoping that the next time we bring you in, we're going to focus on some of the things that you highlighted so that we can go deeper. This was just a way to bring you in so that we can build on that as well. And who knows, you can also be instrumental in helping other different police services across Africa in terms of their chaplaincy and some of these that we need to talk about. So again, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for sharing with us your perspectives, your understandings, and the passion that you have. That's one thing that stood out for me. You have such a passion for the work that you are doing, and you're going out of your way to uh, uh, to carry out that work. And so this has been your host, Dr. FM, on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. And thank you for joining us today. We had our special guest, Reverend Vicent Shikoli, who is in Kenya and is a chaplain working with Kenya Police Service. We're delighted that we have men and women of this caliber who come alongside our brothers and sisters who serve as police officers. Police work is very, very tough. It's not easy. There are all kinds of challenges that they could use other people coming alongside to be a voice of hope, a voice of encouragement to them. And so, again, thank you for being with us. And those of you who were kind enough to send us some comments and to let us know that you are listening, we really appreciate that. So, if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Let other people know about. Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We do have quite a variety of programs, and we're live 24/7, genres of music, and also different topics as well. So go on lovebay.com and you will get to know some of these. And coming up at 1 o'clock, actually, right after this, is the Caribbean flavor. And don't miss that with Mr. Marcus and Miss Jan to Blue. Don't miss that. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to being with you again next week, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we're looking forward to that. So thank you very much for being with us. And as they say in Kenya, Asante Sana, thank you for being with us today.